This is what I would do if I was starting a business. Every day I would wake up and I would read through this thing. Just having a written goal is not enough. You need to see it in color, in detail. The only reason I make $10 million a year is because I'm the person that can do that. This is the thing about negative emotion. Everyone thinks it's a bad thing, but it's the purest form of fuel you have to get to six figures. For building businesses, there's no time to feel. Number one rule of sales is that if you're not sold on your product, nobody else will be. So if you want to make 100 grand a month, don't try to make 100 grand a month. Try to become the person that can. Well, dude, you're not going to build $1 million agency working 9 to 5. First question, I'm trying to start a new agency. I have a crippling fear of service delivery. I don't want to sign a client and that client making a loss working with me. How do I overcome this fear and go for it? I've noticed that I sabotage myself because of it. Well, this is a value-based question based on money, because you're not going to sign people if you don't think you can do good work by them. You just won't, because this indicates to me that you have a good moral compass, which will actually make you more successful in the long term. What you need to do in this instance is release all attachment to making money. And what this basically means is you need to release attachment to making money for your first couple of clients. See clients as the ability for you to make an established proof of concept as opposed to actually make money. It's as simple as that. If you're afraid of people over, the only way you can really someone over is if they transact money towards you and they don't see a return on investment. For as long as you're not doing that, then you're going to be absolutely fine. You just have to kind of get over it. I have a bit of an accent. I live in Iraq. Will that make it more difficult? So here's the thing about the accent thing. If you go into these sales calls on top of the world, feeling super confident, you'll be absolutely fine. But if you go in with the back of your head thinking they're not going to trust me because of my accent, they won't. It's like Sun Tzu's The Art of War. The battle is won before it's fought. And what that means is that your mindset going into a sales call is typically more important and will have more of an influence on the outcome of the sales call than your actual skills themselves. So I wouldn't worry about it. If it was the case that the accent was a huge barrier to entry, then we would have nobody from Pakistan or India or anywhere like that would have ever built a business. So it's not true. It's just a limiting belief. Cold calling from a third world country, have a pretty good American accent. How to bypass country barrier when prospects ask, where are you from? Well, if you're calling with a US-based number, you can just say, I'm calling from the US. Because it's not a lie. What should I be saying in sales calls to instill confidence and remove doubts in their head to work with someone from the third world country? Once again, this comes back to the previous answer I just gave. Confidence isn't instilled through words, it's instilled through emotion. And when a word is charged with an emotion, that emotion is transferred to the other person. So there's a strong difference between saying, you should trust me, and dude, you should trust me. All right, those are two very different things. You're in your own head, man. You're worrying about your accent. You're worrying about your country of origin. If you understand and you truly believe that you're not out to people over and that you've got people's best interests at heart and you truly, genuinely 100% want to help them, then you shouldn't have any problem closing them. But if your level of doubt in your ability to close is parallel to how much you want to help someone because of the country of origin you're from, then they'll cancel each other out. But you know your intentions, and that's really the only thing that matters, at least to me. This is a sort of mindset question. If I stop cold calling for a few weeks or months and then go back to it, will I have to rebuild my pain tolerance, or will most of it remain like a muscle? Well, here's the thing. If you stop cold calling, that's because the muscle has become weaker. With a muscle, man, if you don't train in the gym for 3 months, you lose your strength. Sure, there's some muscle memory, and it's just like that, where it's easier for you to rebuild the strength you initially had, but you're still going to find it hell on earth to rebuild that strength. My suggestion would be to not stop, but maybe you have to stop. Any tips on e-commerce lead sourcing? So far, I've found the only systemized way of getting accurate en masse info is either store leads or brand nav. I would build a process. I'd spend half a day or a day doing this, building a process that is manual, right? Where you go and you find these leads and you build a standard operating procedure in a Google Doc, and then you pay a virtual assistant and you pay them per the amount of leads they source using that system. So if you want to pay them $5 an hour and they can source 10 leads an hour, then you pay them $5 for 10 leads. Sounds expensive, but that way is much more effective, in my opinion, than using these bulk softwares, because when you use these bulk softwares, what happens is you're reaching out to the same people everybody else is reaching out. Sun Tzu's The Art of War, fight them on unfamiliar territory. The closest cousin of war is business. So if you guys want to understand business, you should understand war and strategy. And so when you can apply that, it makes a lot of sense. If everyone's reaching out to these e-com businesses through store leads and stuff, why would you use the same lead? Service delivery. I got my clients 60 leads last month with ads. He only closed 3. How to approach closing leads for my clients. People sign up on these ads, and when you call them and text them and email them, they don't say nothing back. Makes no sense. Well, a lot of this is rooted in the offer, right? So you have to understand, lead nurturing starts with the ad. So people think that lead nurturing is a system that, all systems in business, exist in a non-linear net. Right? They don't exist in silos or on their own. And what that means is that You have a system for getting leads and a system for nurturing leads and a system for closing leads and a system for onboarding closed deals. But all four of those systems are intertwined. And so the conditions you set with the copy and the offer determine the lead nurturing process. And the lead nurturing process then determines the sales call, et cetera, et cetera. So don't make the mistake of thinking, first of all, that lead nurturing is just about calling them, emailing them, and texting them. Because if you're calling, emailing, and texting people and getting nothing back, it's either because the offer doesn't really resonate with them and it was just an emotional flash in the pan, 5 minutes of insecurity and pain and anger, and now they don't care about it anymore. So I would suggest looking at the offer. I mean, what's the offer that you're giving to your clients' leads?
Yeah, I'm in the auto detailing niche, and I do ceramic coating starting at $4.99. It's basically supposed to start at $9.99, but it's a $500 off that.
Are you listing the price? What's the offer? What's the statement? Is it 50% off? Is it $4.99? I mean, what's the deal?
The deal is $4.99 off.
And so what's your process for following up on people?
So they get an automatic email, and then I call them and text them immediately as soon as I can.
And what do you say?
I say, hey, my name is Eric. I'm an assistant with Detail by my client. I'm calling you to claim your $599 of offer.
Okay. Well, first of all, the text is where most of your leverage will be. You can forget the email, you can forget the call. If you've ever seen a consumer's email inbox, you'll understand it's just not going to work. And deliverability will probably there as well. It's going to be very difficult to get an answer from someone unless you call them like 10 times in a row over the course of like 5 days. So I would nail the text. And what does your text message say?
So I follow up every day for 4 days, but the first text says, hey, let's say the lead name is Christian. Hey, Christian, I'm with Detail by. We saw you submitted to have your car ceramic coated. When would be a good time to reach you? Thank you, Eric.
What you've generated the lead using a set of psychological frameworks. You've probably used scarcity. You've probably used social proof. You've probably used urgency. You've probably reciprocity. You need to use the same principles to drive the action in the nurture as you did in the acquisition. And so what that means, the best text that we used to send is just, hey, we've got you locked in for the $4.99. We'll hold it for you for the next few hours. I need a confirmation from you as to when you can come in. Otherwise it expires. You're not their friend. You're not trying to hey, let me know, man. You straight to the point. You'll want to make this a little bit less scuffed and shorter than I'm verbalizing it here. But hey, let's lock you in. We've locked you in for the offer. It expires end of the day until I get a text from you with a time to call you up or a time for you to meet with the person who's running it. Or instead of that, you open a conversation and instead of being like, when can I reach you? That's too much commitment. You say, hey, saw you got the offer. I want to qualify you. What vehicle do you have? And then all they have to do is respond. And then you've got a conversation going. Now there's reciprocity. Now there's commitment, consistency, tendency. And that's a lot easier to nurture someone like that than just to say, hey, when can I get hold of you? So you need to use the same principles in acquisition as you do in nurturing. Don't forget, you're still marketing these people because the action of getting them to show up for the appointment is just as demanding from them as it is, like emotionally and cognitively, as it is to nurture them and actually get them in the door in the first place. Does that make sense?
I would just like to say, usually like the huge majority of leads that actually answer the texts, they answer after day like 2 or 3 of follow-up. Like almost never does a lead the same day answer. Like I have to follow up the 3rd, 4th day. And the text that has gotten me the most replies is, well, hey, Christian, I understand you're busy, but the least thing I would want is for your discounted price to expire. Can you tell me when would be a convenient time for you to visit our shops so we can inspect your vehicle? Thank you. And then this text gets every single time gets a reply.
Yeah, and it's urgency. They're like, there's actually a consequence to me not responding. There needs to be pain. There needs to be urgency. So bring that text to text number 1 and then follow up on them 8 times over 8 days.
Okay, thank you.
What do you think about LinkedIn outreach? Sure, it's slower due to platform constraints, but how would you narrow down a potential audience? I also post regularly there, but for some reason, people don't interact with my content, even though I post extremely actionable and useful stuff without being salesy. I mean, I've never been a fan of LinkedIn content. I've never really explored it, so I can't speak to how to make that more effective. And what I can tell you is that LinkedIn outreach is most certainly worth doing. And there are platforms that do allow you to automate the connection finding process. It's worth doing. To narrow down the potential audience, I can't share the tool that we use because they try and keep it a secret. But if you do enough digging online and search LinkedIn automation connection tool, you will find 1 or 2 tools that you can use to completely automate the connection process. I can't share with the tool that we use for our clients because if it got out on the wider audience, LinkedIn can shut them down. But yes, it's worth doing. Thanks for doing this. Love the vids. Thank you. I'm trying to find painful problems to solve. Do you know some savvy ways to get strangers to open up about their problems without bothering them or coming off as too salesy? I have a method that works okay now, but I feel guilty since I'm not offering anything in return for these people's time. The problem there, man, is the word feel. We're building businesses. There's no time to feel. Like if you've got a method that's working and that's extracting these problems from people, the only consequence to that is that you're feeling a little bit like, oh, I'm not giving this person any time. I wouldn't worry. What I can tell you is that in exchange for that person's time, you're giving them an ear and listening to them about their problems, which almost no one ever does in the modern world. So you're actually giving them something in return. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it. In terms of an actual way to find the painful problems, I've always just looked at my life and what I found painful and what I found difficult. And then I've just solved that for myself and I've just solved the solution. Basically, it's as simple as that. Would you say it's worth hiring VAs that call your clients leads and turn them into bookings before doing it yourself? So you can focus on signing more clients and optimizing service delivery? No, I would do it yourself first. Never outsource something you don't truly understand and know how to execute on. Okay? It doesn't work. How are you going to manage someone to do something if you can't do it yourself? How do I structure my follow-ups to get more out of every piece of outreach? My niche only has 4,000 people in the US. I want to get the most out of my cold emails and LinkedIn messages. Well, the way to get the most out of a follow-up sequence, in my experience, is to send single sentence follow-ups every now and then using a meme. You go to image flip, you can create me seeing you didn't reply, right? You can just create all sorts of memes. These break patterns and they work really well. The biggest mistake people make with follow-ups is not enough volume, not enough time, and not enough pattern interrupt. What that means is you want single sentence follow-ups that just bump the initial message, because you have to understand the purpose of a follow-up message is to get someone to reply to the initial message. The initial message is doing all the hard work. So you just want to revert them back to that as much as you can. If it's a loom, you keep sending the loom. If it's an offer, you keep sending the offer. And then it's just crushing them through familiarity. I mean, our setters follow up on people 8 times through cold DMs and cold messages. And if someone responds to our email positively, we follow up 7. And that's over a 2-week period. What are some of the false beliefs you had when you first started and how did you tackle them? Well, the first one was that money was scarce and hard to come by. The second one was that I couldn't beat people and that a beginner can't take over someone who's more advanced. I mean, dude, there were a ton of beliefs. The main ones were probably around sales and outreach. And usually they all start with you. I'm not good at sales, or I don't know how to sell, or that's technically true. I didn't know how to sell. If you want to understand what your limiting beliefs are, you don't really have to look any further than the current problems that you're facing. Let's say, for example, we take a meal situation with these people who aren't booking these appointments. He might believe that the people in that niche just don't want to book appointments. Or he might believe that if he follows up on people too much, that they're not going to reply. If I've got a problem in my company, the first thing I look at to solve it is my belief systems around it. My sales reps aren't converting. Well, is that because I believe that people won't buy, or because I believe the niche is sad? Every problem usually stems from a belief. But when have you found it better and more efficient to build your businesses in a relationship or out of one? Now, I've been in multiple relationships whilst building my companies. I honestly haven't found them to be too negative. The thing with the relationships is, in my experience, is they actually calm your limbic nervous system. Because if you know that you've got access to love and intimacy and connection, then your brain doesn't really go off on a mad one. But lack of that can really send you into a state of distraction, especially as a young guy. I'm not in a relationship now, and fortunately enough, I don't struggle with it too much. But it's not binary. It's not about whether or not a relationship helps you be more productive. It's about who you're with. That's really all it comes down to. If you're with someone that is high maintenance, demanding, requires attention, dramatic, draining, then of course your business is going to suffer immeasurably. But if you're with someone who's super relaxed and super calm, then you're fine. The only thing that I look for, there's lots of things I look for in a partner, but the main thing I look for is low maintenance. Do they require constant attention, time, and effort? If not, then they're usually going to be a better fit for me. Could you recommend mass cold Loom AI tools? Do you think that a simple first name personalization would be good enough for Loom outreach? I would suggest you use pitch lane. Once again, you're misaligning these variables. A simple first name audio personalization is good enough if the rest of the Loom script is good enough. So Stefan, I would use pitch lane, and the answer is yes if the Loom audio file is pretty good. My questions are testimonial centric. This is from Nazrat. I was wondering if you recommend doing cold reach out even when you have no testimonials. Well, my friend, how the hell are you going to get testimonials without doing cold outreach? Chicken and egg scenario, mate, but there's no chicken and no egg in that instance. So I would suggest, yes, you do. And how much service delivery do you recommend to know before you can compete with others in your niche? You don't need to know service delivery to compete, because we compete on acquisition. It is possible to acquire clients without knowing everything about service delivery, provided that you dance and sing and do as much as you can to build proper relationships with your clients once you have signed them. Do you recommend making content around my niche to build trust if you have no testimonials? Yes, I would do that. I'm calling gym owners in the US and my gatekeeper bypass rate is 10%. Most of them are voicemails. Sometimes the owner is not in or I'm too bad trying to pass through. Should I work on my leads and scrape it through Google Maps to find the owner straight away or try something else? I would just keep doing what you're doing for another month. Cold calling is a skill. Like, this is one of these beautiful things, because with cold email, if you've got really KPIs, they don't improve as more time elapses. But cold calling KPIs improve as you get better. So there's a human element to this. If you have a 1% appointment booking rate on cold looms, and with the current set of variables and the current leads you're using, it's 1%, it doesn't matter if 30 days elapses, you're still going to have 1% with regression to the mean. But with cold calling, it's likely that as more volume goes by, you get better at it. So I would just stick to it. I wouldn't change anything. Mo says, what type of mindset module or what type of mindset should I have when everyone around me does not believe and support me and I cannot change my environment as I do not have my money? Well, dude, this is probably one of the purest forms of motivation, man. You get to prove them all wrong. I had the same thing, where like a load of my friends and like my family were quite supportive, but they were all like, maybe you should get a job and all this. Just use it as like anger. This is the thing about negative emotion. Like, everyone thinks it's a bad thing, but it's the purest form of fuel you have to get to six figures. Never, ever, ever try to strip yourself of anger or hate, or obviously if you're channeling it in a really negative way. If it's going into work, it's fantastic. If you're beating old ladies up, I wouldn't suggest you do it, right? Like, if people are saying to you, like, you can't do it and you're never going to make, first of all, they don't know you. Maybe they do, maybe they're close to you, but they don't know who you're becoming. They haven't been sat in a room for 6 months trying to build something. So I just keep going, man. Just work. And what will happen is, like, as they watch you work, they'll be like, he's actually serious. Like, he's gonna make something happen. How do you attack not interested responses to emails? You do not. Simple as that. Work on leads that are interested. Do not work on ones that are not interested. I have tried basically everything under the sun, although there's probably a lot more things I could have tried. And it's very difficult to get a comeback from that. Stefan, how long do you keep following up with warm leads? I have a couple of leads who asked me to send them case studies, but after doing, they would never respond back. Be following up with them once a week for 2 months. So I would follow up with them every day for about 2 weeks. Once a week is too little. You want to piss them off. And never, ever, 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 ever in your last email to them, say, this is my last email to you. This is the biggest mistake people make with follow-up. Well, there's a lot of them, but one of them is, when you get those emails like, hey, this is my last time emailing you because you haven't replied. You don't want them to know that it's your last time, because a lot of the time people reply just because they're like, oh, please, I'll just book a call if I have to. Fine. Sam, what's going on? I read most of the basic books everyone recommends, but I feel like you have some special recommendations. Discourses by Epictetus and Letters from a Stoic by Seneca. If a client has never run ads before, how do I set everything up in the beginning so that we're best protected? I tried testing this with a brand new business manager and got banned as soon as I tried to make myself an admin. Let me ask you this. Have you ran an ad before? Have you ever had a banned ad account or something before?
Never. I'm completely new to this. I'm just thinking a lot of these guys that I'm working with have never ran ads before. I don't want to ask for their access to their business manager and then get them banned straight away and make myself look bad, if you know what I mean.
What did you set up before to get banned?
So I wanted to make sure it worked first before I started asking clients for access to their business managers. So I made a brand new Facebook account with brand new business managers just in case they needed to do it. And then it just said you're banned from advertising on the new business manager.
The issue is you've gone brand new. Did the personal account get banned, or did the business manager get restricted from advertising?
I think it was the business manager.
So here's the thing. When you create a new Facebook account, the algorithm watches you like a hawk. It's not normal for a human being to create a new Facebook personal profile and then create a business manager immediately. That's a huge red flag to Facebook, because they just assume that someone's just been banned by Facebook advertising and then they've had to create a new account. So I think that what's happened there is the instance is just, it's because it's a new account. If this problem was a pattern, nobody would be able to create business managers for their clients. So I don't think it's anything you've done per se, or anything you've set up or gone wrong with, because you didn't even run any ads. You haven't done anything wrong. I think it's just because it's a brand new account and Facebook's like, what the hell are you trying to do here?
It was a new business manager, not a new account. The account was about like 4 or 5 years old that I had as a backup ages ago. Mm-hmm. I just added a new business manager, and it was the business manager that got like banned straight away. I'm just worried, because if a client has never done it before, they make one because, I want to do ads. And then they add me as an admin, they get banned. It's going to look bad. I
think it'll be fine. I think it's just a random instance. When you're building this company, like, you want to look at patterns as opposed to anomalies. Like, you've never run Facebook ads before. You've never had a restriction of failed payment. You've never had a ban or a block. So it doesn't make sense to me as to why like that would happen. So what you should probably do instead is the client will create the business manager. They will then add you and give you access to it. It's very different to you creating it. So I think you'll be just fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Khalid, I'm in the coach's niche. I was able to get my first 3 clients, but I found it difficult to deliver results. I'm doing ads in a funnel to book appointments. Do you suggest me get someone to do the work? Because now I'm working all the time just to deliver results and not get new clients. Khalid, how much money are your clients spending on ads per month?
1,500.
Yeah, it's not enough. Dude, if you're working with coaches and they're not spending like at least $100 a day on ads, like you're not going to get any traction. There's not enough data. There's not enough leverage. You haven't got enough anything. My suggestion would be to do organics for them. This is what I would do if I was starting a business working with coaches. Like, forget ads, because here's the other problem is most of the coaches you're working with probably don't have a proof of concept with their offering. And so you only go to ads when you want to scale something that already works. So I would suggest building cold email systems, cold DM systems for them, as opposed to running ads, because $1,500 a month, if you're selling a high ticket coaching product, you're going to get like $200 cost per call. There's no data to optimize. There's not enough budget. We didn't start running ads until we could put 30 grand a month into them. And even then, it still feels like enough. So yeah. And I would not hire someone else to do it until you've nailed it. This is the thing. You guys have to understand that like hiring is it's a rite of passage. You should only be allowed to hire for a role when you have smashed that role, because otherwise your foundations for your entire business are. So the question in summary is like, how do I motivate myself to work, essentially? Well, here's the thing, man, like emotions are like a warm bath. Even if I managed to get you pissed off enough to work, tomorrow you'd wake up and you wouldn't be pissed off anymore. Instead of relying on emotion and, telling yourself that this is a limiting belief, the first thing I can see in this question is like, how do I feel the reason to work, right? You don't need to have a feeling to work. You just need to work. So instead of being all like, oh, like I need to be sad and angry to work, just get up and work, man. Like most of the time, these questions all fall under the same category of like, just work. Stop trying to like make some weird with your mindset. Just wake up, get out of bed, walk to your desk, sit down and complete your to-do list. It's really not that difficult, but people make it difficult and weird when they tell themselves they need to have certain conditions to get the work done. Rely on discipline, not emotion. Question is how to retain belief your service or product without testimonials or experience. I can see the motivation and belief is raising once the first client is signed. If you haven't got a great product right now, you need to have confidence in something. And so if you haven't got a product, then you are the product. What that means is that instead of having confidence in your ability to deliver, have confidence in your ability to find the ability to deliver. And what that means is that if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help this person. When I signed my first client, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had so much conviction because I knew that I would not sleep until they got results. I would feel nauseous all the time if they weren't getting leads. And so when I was talking to this guy, I was like, look, if you trust me, I swear on my life, come hell or high water, I will make this work. And I just had this uncanny level of belief in my ability to figure it out and solve the problem. Because learning service delivery, I'll be honest with you, mate, is not that hard. You go and find agencies that are crushing it. You go and find their clients. You copy their ads. You copy their funnels. You copy their service delivery systems. Can you get to 100 grand a month with that? No. Can you get to 10 grand a month with that? Yes. Service delivery is the most transparent thing and easiest thing to learn because all the systems are already built. If you're in the dental niche and you want to figure out how to deliver services for dentists, you go on Facebook Ads Manager. You go on their Facebook business page. You find the ads that they're running that are working. If they're established and doing well, they wouldn't be running ads that aren't working. You find the funnels, you find the text campaigns, you go through the funnel, you funnel hack it, copy and paste, bosh. That's obviously not a particularly ethical way to do business. And officially, I'm not recommending you do that, but it's an option. I wouldn't worry. It's not hard to figure it out, but you need to have conviction and confidence in your character because I knew that if someone paid me money, I would literally not stop thinking about it. Like I remember when I got my first client, like I didn't do anything but figure out how to get results for that guy. Like a whole month, like 12 hours a day, just hunched over a tiny laptop in my sister's art shed, like freezing my ass off because I knew that I would do that for him. You have to have the confidence from somewhere. How would you recommend someone with zero previous experience to practice sales calls before they manage to book real calls? Well, you book real calls, mate. You don't practice before doing the calls. That's like asking me, how do I practice shooting basketball hoops without practicing basketball hoops? It's like saying to me, how do I practice my golf swing without swinging like a golf club? You can. This whole dichotomy where people are like, oh, I need to have practice. I need to practice before I do the calls. Dude, your first 30 sales calls are going to be a train wreck. Mine were. It took me like 60 calls to close my first call. Accept that and accept that if you're dogged with it and you continue for long enough, you will eventually get the hang of it and be just fine. People see foreigners as Indians as a scammer. So I started video messaging page on Instagram to speak with complete honesty that I'm new, hardworking and all that. Do you think it's a good idea to be completely honest? No, not really, because anyone that DMs me saying they're honest and good means that they're probably not. Speak as if you are and you'll be fine. If I was from India or Pakistan, the way I would combat this, I'd make light of it. I'd be like, hey, it's Charlie. Listen, I know my accent might be raising some red flags to you right now, but I've got an opportunity for you. Call it out. Get it out on the table. Get this like thing that's just in the air off the table and just say, look, I want to help your business. I know I've got an accent. It might make you categorize me into all the other cold calls you've ever received and try to screw you over, but I promise this is different. Will you hear me out? Can I pitch you? Just calling it out is enough. Okay.
But what if I don't have any client or testimonials when they ask?
Then you just say, I'm new. Give me a chance. Don't pay me anything. Pay me per appointment. I'll reverse the risk for you. I will bend over backwards for 3 months and I will hold a plank for 3 years to get you on board. I will do anything because I know I can help you. I promise. I swear on my life. This testimonial thing, like if you just have enough volume and enough, like you'll eventually get lucky and someone will believe in you. My services, Facebook ads, I find it difficult to get the first client signed when offering a free service. Right. First of all, never do free. Free seems more risky than paid because if it was like everyone knows anything worth free isn't really worth using or doing. Instead of doing free, you want to do pay per appointment or pay on result. Pay on result will get you 10 times more clients than free. Trust me, because business owners understand the nature of transaction. To receive, they have to give. They are very skeptical of anything that they can receive without giving anything. It doesn't make sense. There's way more skepticism involved in that. With consumers, it's different because consumers don't understand the nature of transaction. So you can use free and it works absolutely fine. You get their email and then you've got them for the rest of your life. Is being in a relationship something that I should avoid? I have no clients. No. Not necessarily. Stefan, how would you differentiate yourself as an email marketer when there is not much maneuvering space in terms of offers and guarantees? Pretty much everybody offers 20 to 30 to 50% increase in sales and a money back guarantee. Humor is a good example. Positioning, asking permission is another example. Social proof, volume is a pretty good one. Better still, say, hey, I know people have offered you a 20 to 50% increase in sales in the last 3 months. I'm sure you've had plenty of those. And then you just create a completely different offer. Or you say, we have a completely different offer. Would you like to hear it? Vague. They say, yeah, I'd love to hear it. Okay, well, here's my link to book a call. Oh, can you tell me how it works before I book on the call? I'd rather explain it in person. I don't want to send you a wall of text. Okay. Cool booked. Curiosity is the biggest leverage point for appointment booking. Curiosity and incentive. If you have those two things, you will book as many appointments as your heart desires. Incentive is why they book the call. Curiosity is not understanding how it quite works. So my strategy for that, at least my first test would be, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm guessing you receive 5 emails a day from people telling you that they can do email marketing with a 50% return. We have an offer that is completely different and you'll love it. Can I explain it? Book recommendations for sales, anything on human nature and psychology. Never read a book on sales. Sales is applied psychology. So read a book on psychology and apply it. A good place to start is Influenced by Robert Cialdini. Niche migration. Last month, Jordan Platten had a new series. A lot of people switched to my niche, home improvement. I know a lot of them are beginners and they do not know what they're doing, but I have a few clients already. We haven't got a lot of testimonials. I don't want to change niche, but maybe it'd be a good move. Do not change niche, mate. They'll leave. Don't worry. Is outsourcing cold calling to native English speakers a good idea? They're doing commission only. Yes. What is your framework for building out an outbound appointment booking system? Well, my friend, that is easy grow, and our clients pay for the privilege of that information, so I won't share it here. But the first principles of it, I suppose, are pick a group of people, understand what they want, and send them messages indicating you can give them what they want in a way that doesn't look like anybody else. That's really the first principle of it. How would you ethically manipulate a contract to reduce refunds? Here's the thing, mate. We sell low ticket services. I know everyone says high ticket because it sounds shiny, but if you're selling deals for less than 100 grand, contracts do not mean. If someone wants a refund and you go back and you say, oh, but the contract says no, if it's like 4 grand or whatever, they'll just dispute the payment. And also, if you want to reduce refunds, instead of trying to ethically manipulate a contract, just get better at what you do. If you have refunds and refund requests, you deserve them. A contract will not, it doesn't stand in the way, because the only time a contract truly, I mean, a contract is technically legally binding, but the only time a contract actually has weight is when the value of the transaction exceeds the amount of money that it would cost to sue someone. So let's say that you transact with me for $10,000 and you come to me and say, Charlie, I want a refund. And I say no, right? You can just dispute the payment. I might then be like, you've broken the contract. I'm going to sue you. But to sue you would probably cost me more than $10,000. So it's net negative for me to do that. There's no point. Stefan says, one prospect answered my email with charge me when I reach these numbers or whatever you promise. Is it even worth trying to counter this? It seems like this isn't going to work because he's difficult. Dude, you don't know if someone's a difficult person based on an email. He might be impatient. You don't know. Just because he says charge me when you deliver, because educating them and providing them a service at the same time is kind of a double job whilst being paid for the latter. So, dude, he's a smart business owner. He's an experienced buyer. He's testing you. He's trying to negotiate with you. He's trying to see what you're made of. I would reply to that by saying something like, oh, sounds like a great idea. I'm sure we can meet in the middle. How about we hop on a call later? You don't know. You can't judge someone and their entire business and situation and pain point on 10 words on an email. In worst case scenario, if it does turn out that he is like that, you've got an hour of sales practice under your belt and some niche market research to boot. It's never, ever worth rejecting a sales call if you're early. Take every single sales call you can. Any ideas on how to pair cold calling with direct mail? Yes, threaten to send them direct mail if they don't respond. Like, hey, I really want to get this to you. And if I don't get a reply, I'll send it to you directly. Obviously, don't actually threaten them. That's probably not a great strategy to do anything. You can say to them like, hey, Like if push comes to shove, I will send you a letter officially. It's going to happen. With the new Hormozy book, what are your thoughts on lead magnets? And can they be good options from the perspective of a done for you lead generation and appointment setting agency? Going to tell you something. When an influencer releases a new strategy, steer clear of it. Now everyone is talking about lead magnets. We all know how it goes, man. If you do what everybody else does, you have what everybody else has. I wouldn't bother. It's kind of like the Thomas Gannett thing with the med spa niche. It's like, oh my, we're going to get to med spa niche. And there's like more agencies than there are med spas, right? I honestly don't think lead magnets are a good idea. I like appointments, not leads. And in my opinion, in this B2B space that we're in, it's just as easy to get an appointment as it is a lead if you know how to do it properly. Made 11K in the mortgage niche, but the interest rate is high, which is causing bad service delivery because people don't want to buy homes. Most of my competitors aren't getting good results. I only have 1 to 2 competitors. I'm thinking of taking a dive into remodeling. Do you have any successful students in the remodeling niche? Yeah, we've got quite a few people who have done well in the remodeling niche. I wouldn't quit. I wouldn't switch niche. What I would do is spend like 2 to 3 hours a day cold calling in the remodeling niche. And only when you've got cash transacted do you switch the niche. Do you think it's better to get people in a meeting from Instagram DMs through an intro call or a calendar link with follow-up, etc.? Yeah, so you want to get them booked through Calendly so they can get the reminders. And it also is psychologically, it holds them more accountable to the show. If they just give you a time, you can ask them for their email and phone number and you can book them into Calendly manually. The reminders are important. What's a good response rate in Instagram DM is if anything less than that, should I figure out my initial message? Well, the issue with Instagram is the media seen rate is really low. And the MSR or media seen rate, as we call it in Easy Growth, is the percentage rate of people that actually see the message you send, right? Because you're in the requests and usually that's like 5 to 10%. What you want to do is calculate the response rate based on the media seen rate, not on the amount of messages you sent, because you're bottlenecked before that. So if you send 100 messages and only get 2 replies, your reply rate is 2% overall. You might then think this message sucks. But if you look at the media seen rate and you only have 8 people who have actually seen it and you've got 2 replies, then that's way better, right? You've got 25% reply rate. And then all you'd have to do is take that message and remove it from the bottleneck and start using Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or email because you've got proof of concept there. You're just bottlenecked by the media seen rate. So be very careful trying to diagnose a problem with response rate instead of Instagram DMs. Because the usual issue is the media seen rate. Now, if you've had 30 people see your message and none reply, then yes, you need to change your initial message. But at a push, it should be 10% based off the media seen rate, 10%, because that's like 1% overall, right? Because the average media seen rate will be 10%. How would you recommend doing everything that I need to do to build $1 million agency if I'm working 9 to 5 in time? Well, dude, you're not going to build $1 million agency working 9 to 5. You might be able to add a push to get it to 3 to 4 grand a month. So get it there first and then quit. The focus is just, it's too valuable. But, at the end of the day, just isolate the asymmetric activities. When I was doing my apprenticeship, I was building my first agency. I would take sales calls on my lunch break. I would make cold calls before my job and I would make cold calls at the end of the day after my job. That's the main thing. Like just cold call anytime you have and then book sales calls whenever you can and then just hope you get lucky. David, how do we handle objections about setup? I made 4,000 cold callings and my appointment booking rate is 0.49%. If people ask me about a setup fee and I tell them there's no setup, I can't close them. If I tell them there's some low setup fee, they have no interest. I'm in the real estate niche. What would you recommend? By the way, my show rate is 25%. So I would say simply, sometimes we charge a setup fee, sometimes we don't. It depends on the clients and their needs. For me to give you a product or to sell you something without understanding your situation would be unethical because prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. So what I would love to do is explore your business and your challenges. And if necessary, we may charge a setup fee, but I also want you to know if you're not comfortable with it, maybe we won't. Because here's the thing, like I understand you're asking the setup fee question because you've worked with an agency before that has charged a setup fee, taken your money and run for the hills. You've probably been ripped off before, right? Exactly. I understand that. So that's why our approach is much more modeled around your needs and what you want. So if we hop on a call, if it's not a fit, that's absolutely fine, but I still think it might be. So let's just do it. You might want to transcribe that. That's how I'd handle that objection. What do you think about going broad with the service, like missed call, text back versus niche down in the beginning? Niche down. If you want to understand how to build a business, just look at like any successful species in nature. They all have a niche. Business is parallel to nature. The natural world is the closest like thing to business, with the exception of war. So have a niche. Kind of be like trying to like introduce a new species of animal into an environment. The first thing you'd ask is, well, what role does this animal play? How does it support and function in the environment? Oh, it just does everything. Well, it's gonna die. I suppose that's humans, but we've evolved through the niche. Mindset question. Will having an alter ego have the same effect as doing visualizing? You can look at it like that. Like they kind of go two and of the same. Imposter syndrome is like a symptom of ecstasies, which basically means shedding skin, right? So if you feel like an imposter, it means that part of you is dying. And that's very good because you want that part of you to die. I just used to call myself Charlie V2. Like, that's what I used to refer to myself as. If I had a decision to make, I was like, I can either do the cold calls or I can go and watch Game of Thrones. I'm like, well, what would Charlie V2 do? And if you use that heuristic enough, as a habit throughout all these behaviors, you eventually become Charlie V2. And now I'm on like V10 or whatever the hell. If you had to start from scratch, what would you do differently with the knowledge you have now? God, if I started my YouTube channel like 5 years ago, I'd be happy. That's the main thing, to be honest with you. Yeah, there's that. I would focus a lot more on the product and service delivery in terms of like making that as bulletproof as possible. But the YouTube channel is by the first thing that comes to mind. Should I have one prospecting channel, like one niche, one service, one channel? Or should I have two? Yeah, so just have one for now, nail one, and then move to another one. If I include a pay on conversion in my offer and my client's local business, how can I track the conversions happen ARL? You can't track pay on conversion without access to their payment processor, bank account, and CRM, which is extremely messy. So just do it pay per appointment. It's way easier. We work with UK bridal studios. Our offer has signed clients like a charm, but we can't deliver. Generate leads. Brides do not respond to offer whatsoever, no matter how lucrative they get it. Hasn't increased booking rates. Bridalers also have a emotional component. Do we offer them lead generation? Let the clients book in? Do we change niche? I wouldn't change the niche. I would go to my YouTube channel and search up how to deliver a pay per appointment offer. Implement that follow-up system before you change niche. Total available market looking to be spent. It's from Brandon, sending 30 to 40 cold emails a day, doing 12K a month. Is it worth trying ads? I have 100K cash reserves. Only do ads if your cold emails are working. So if you've got like I would argue like a 3% appointment booking rate on those ads, on those cold emails, then yes, you can try ads. However, I think you'd get more leverage and the same result out of just tripling your email output. Far less complexity, far less risk, or do both. How do I kill myself quicker? My current self, may I add? Pain, mate. Just to clarify for everyone, we're talking psychologically, as you don't want to get demonetized or cancelled here. Pain, as much as you can muster up. Pain manifests when resistance meets effort. And so you just want to have as much of that as possible, as much resistance, as much effort, and bang. I know that from your videos, volume is king. So I plan on sending 1,000 cold emails every day. But how will I find over 1,000 leads? And how should I incorporate a VA to do that? Figure out how to send 100 first, man. Figure that out and then figure out 1,000. If you can't book appointments with 50 cold emails a day, you're not going to book any with 1,000, right? Because outputs scale with volume. And so if you haven't got it proven in the micro, you will not prove it in the macro. And if you spend all this time trying to solve this 1,000 email a day problem, when volume might not be the issue, the message or the offer could be the issue. If we look at math and we look at physics and we look at systems, you only introduce volume when something's already working. So don't try to massively scale something that hasn't been proven to work yet, because the chances are it won't. Because most variables and initial conditions do not line up to cause the effect we want. Same with the cold email thing. Nail the emails first, the cold calling thing. Do you think YouTube ads for local business work? Because I can see there is an opportunity. I can pull it off. It might be hard because there's no teaching. I wouldn't switch to local business, mate. I would just keep working with your coaches, but just do organic. What is it really like being a millionaire? Do you know what, mate? It's pretty nice, but it's not as good as you might think. I'm happy when I'm working, to be honest with you. The house, the car feels good, but if I'm in this villa on the palm and just like laying around watching Netflix, I'll be miserable. So it's like, it's really good. But the issue is like, this is like, you kind of have this, I would call it a conscientious identity hangover. In order to build a life like this, you have to work your absolute socks off. And typically what happens with humans is the behavior that we act for a long period of time becomes the behavior that we become familiar with and identify with. And what that means is that in order for us to be happy and to live a fulfilled, meaningful life, we have to be behaving in accordance with what we're familiar with. And so you can make as much money as you want, but truthfully, man, like hand over heart, to me, money doesn't really mean too much anymore. And obviously it's easy to say when you've got a significant amount of it, because when you're broke and not making much, it sucks a lot. It's not as sweet as you might think, because if I sold my business and had no work to do, I'd be miserable, man, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's better than being broke. I can tell you that for sure. How does Sam Ovens' vision board, affirmation, story, and manifesto thing actually work? Well, I can show you. So if none of you have a document like this, I'd recommend you build one. What you want to do is create what we would call a identity document, because we all understand, or maybe you don't understand this, but you need to understand this, that we don't achieve goals, we achieve characters. So if you want to achieve your goal, you need to become the person that can achieve your goal. So if you want to make 100 grand a month, don't try to make 100 grand a month, try to become the person that can. Ask yourself, what skill sets, what beliefs, what habits, what understandings, what mental models does that person have that I do not? Develop those, and you develop the character. And once you become the person that can, if enough time elapses, eventually you get what you deserve. The only reason I make $10 million a year is because I'm the person that can do that, not for any other reason. It's the most first principle. So what you want to do is build out something like this. So this is actually called an alchemy of self document or self-transcendence document, is what we teach in Easy Grow. And it's a simple document. I got it printed out. This is actually my old one, which is ironic because it all came true. And basically what you do is you put in some things you never want to forget, right? So you can take a screenshot of this if you want. Do that now, if you so wish. And then what you do is you basically have a vision board. So you want to put in like, who do you want to become? What is your vision for your life? Because you only have one. Who do you look up to? You know, I did this. This is still my long-term vision. I've got Jeff Bezos. I've got Ray Dalio. I've got God, right? Zeus. I've got the greatest philosophers to ever live. Probably arguably the most beautiful car in the world. That's neither here nor there. Gulfstream, multiple houses. And then I put Apple's headquarters because I want a huge company. And then this is what I put a while ago when I was like 20. And this is funny because I achieved all of this. Like that exact apartment, the one that I want is the one that I just moved out from. I had the car that I wanted, the watch, body's getting there. You need to look at this every day because he who has a why can justify almost anyhow. So if you guys don't have a visual reminder, because just having a written goal is not enough. You need to see it in color, in detail, feel it. So what I would do is every day I would wake up and I would read through this thing. And you think it would be boring, but it wasn't. You know, and then I've got more of these things like $1 million consultant, intelligent, and this is the craziest thing, right? So then you want to do this where you've got like your legacy, everything you've done. Even if you've done nothing, just starting is enough, right? And if we look at this is insane. So then you build out your story. So like, what have you done? And then what are you going to do, right? And this was obviously a long time ago. But here's the crazy thing. I wrote this when I was 19 or 20 or whatever. None of this was true. Charlie Morgan is a seven-figure consultant. He's known for his mastery of organic attraction and sales and is $1 million entrepreneur. He's completely transformed his life. He's gone from 4K a month to 100K a month in 12 months. Charlie's the co-founder of Imperium Acquisition, the best and most effective coaching business for agency owners. Imperium has transformed the lives of thousands of clients and is becoming... So you can also... This is all coming true. Imperium Agency makes it easy for any agency owner to quickly scale to multi-6 or 7 figures and add value to the market, blah, blah, blah. All of this has happened. You need to be super concise on what you want. And then you have your traits, your style, your mentors, your image. You can put your goals in here and stuff. Then you have affirmations. These are the key. So we've all heard of affirmations before where you tell yourself something until it becomes true. It works if you act on it. But here's the thing with affirmations is you need to have a cue. So what I did is I created this thing called a clap cue where before reading the affirmations, I would clap. Because what happens when you're habitualizing this document every day, it becomes very monotonous. So when I read this, I'm like, I clap, and then suddenly I'm actually aware of what I'm doing. So the words go in. These were my affirmations. I had more affirmations than this. The first one you have to work on, by the way, this is like the meta affirmation you have to have, is my imagination is vivid and I find visualization easy. Because if you believe that you find visualization hard, you're never going to visualize properly. So if you're trying to create all these affirmations about sales and mindset and goals and all this, but you've got the root problem, it doesn't matter. How many people should I reach out to every day? As many as you can, mate. There's no arbitrary number, just as many as you can until your fingers fall off, right? Do you think I could scale to 20K solely in the UK before I jump to the US? Yes, you can. Will voicemails rather than calling leads still work effectively? No, they won't. Another question, Charlie. Let's say you have a percentage and you sell 4,500 for 90 days with 5% of revenue. You add to their business. If the offer you call pay on results, no, it's not disingenuous to do that. If you have a performance-based fee and there's also a setup and say it's pay on results, you're absolutely fine. It's not disingenuous, in my opinion. How do I set a goal for myself so I can just fire my ass up and do the work? I've been going through these circles of hyper-focus and procrastination. I really think that if I set a goal, which I will never ever forget, and it's in my mind 24/7, that I will just keep doing the work that I should do every single day. So instead of setting a goal, set a character. This is what I just walked you through with that document, right? Obviously, you need a goal because you need a trajectory and something to offset your suffering against, but I would do that. Adesha says, do you think voice messages as an initial message would be a good idea to increase curiosity, not pitching just a personalized hook to get more responses? Yes. Targeting a niche which has 45K yearly revenue, is that a good niche? No. 45K a year is not good enough as a niche. I do work with UK Home Improvement. I charge a low retainer of £400. I get good results, but some are inconsistent. I'm not sure if my clients would justify a higher revenue cost into a low profit margin. I feel that higher service fee would allow me to grow and build stronger teams. Is my issue with my pricing model, or is it with the results I can generate and my confidence to do so? Well, first of all, mate, you're not going to be able to scale a business selling £400 a month retainers. That is the first and most apparent bottleneck. Dude, you need like 20 clients to make £8,000 a month. And I can tell you from experience that managing 20 clients is not very fun. Certainly not worth £8,000 a month. It might sound like it is, but trust me, it's not. Increase the price. But here's the thing. You're not going to be able to justify the price to clients if you can't justify it to yourself. Number one rule of sales is that if you're not sold on your product, Nobody else will be, because the fact you don't want to increase your price because you don't feel it's valuable enough says to me that you're not yet ready to increase it. So start with that problem. Start with figuring out how to make it better. Udesha says, how many follow-ups should I do if one is seen but not replied to an initial message? 7 or 8. How do I overcome the objection of Facebook ads won't work because it didn't work for them in the past? This is a simple one. You pull it apart with logic. You say, okay, well, why didn't it work? And then they'll say something like, well, it just didn't. It's like, well, could you explain like what you did last time? What you're looking for is a thread to pull on, because we know Facebook ads works. The client has had one bad experience in the past and Facebook ads hasn't worked. So we need to understand the cause to the effect of the failure. Oh, well, tell me about your last agency. What did they do? Well, they ran ads to a 70-kilometer radius. Well, do you think that might be why it didn't work? If you can understand why it didn't work last time, it's not that it doesn't work, is that there's a reason. If you can understand that reason and then you contrast your service against what didn't work before, by explaining that you're not going to have that problem, then you'll close them. Charlie, I'm a new agency owner. Should I learn how to run ads or should I approach a media buyer? I would learn it yourself, my friend. You'll find that it's like way better. Learn it yourself. I'm cold calling the home remodeling niche using the methods you teach, i.e. 30-second permission. And after making around 300 calls, I'm getting about 21% of decision makers. I've got an appointment booking rate of 0.6%. The KPIs aren't great, man, but you've only done 300 calls. I would do 1,000 and see where you sit. Regression to the mean will kick in as you get better. What do you think is a better offer? A week's free trial or money back if you don't deliver? Money back if you don't deliver. Did you have a mentor when starting? Yeah, I had Sam Evans. How should be my work ethic and how to program myself to get disciplined, and how many hours per day should I work if I'm not a person who loves work-life balance? When you're starting a business, you should never ever set a specific amount of hours that you work. You just work as much as you bloody can before you fall apart. You're probably orderly and conscientious like me, where you like things to be neat and tidy, but you have to create chaos. Because, if you say, I'm only going to work 9 hours a day, then if hour 8 rolls around and your payment processor gets blocked, and you're like, oh, well, I'm 1 hour from finishing. This is not a 9 to 5 job. You don't have set hours. It's a business. You work 24 hours a day, mate. Client calls you at 4 a.m. and it's your first client. They've got a problem and they're in Australia or something. You have to answer it. You work all the time. What principles would you suggest to follow when putting together the initial message? Request permission and do not pitch. Simple as that. Hey, Charlie, I'm stuck at the moment. I want to get my first client on a free trial. So I was agreeing to anything just to close them on the meeting. Finally, I end up doing an organic post marketing. I generated him 4 clients in 3 weeks. When should I charge him with that strategy? Here's the thing, man. You said it was free, so you can't really go back on that. You've learned a lesson about deal structure, negotiation. Don't offer free. Right? Offer pay on results or pay per client or pay per lead or pay per appointment, anything that transacts. Negotiations work in concession. If you go in asking for $1,000 up front and $50 per appointment, you can come down from that. But if you go in with the lowest offer that you want to accept, you cannot come down. So you need to leave some margin for negotiation when it comes to value exchange. I recently switched niches after spending 9 months in what I believe was a bad niche and trying to get your opinion on whether this was the right decision and what your advice is when you're starting off in the new niche. I was in the fitness niche where I helped fitness influencers monetize their personal brands. Now I'm in the real estate niche. Here's the thing about niches, like it's very seldom that a niche fails. It's always the case the person fails. And as human beings, we have egos. We don't like to blame ourselves for our failures. It's a lot easier to fall back and point to a niche and say, that was why I didn't become successful. But the truth is that it was probably your fault. But you've made the decision now, stick with the real estate niche. And if you can't make the real estate niche work, then just keep going. I have a web development agency. I'm not sure how to get more clients with outreach. How would you do outreach for web development? And what would your offer be? It seems like when I cold call people, they tell me they already don't need development. The thing with web development is like, people don't really need it. And this is what I found, like websites don't really solve the problem of acquisition for people. It's very rare to find someone that actively feels like they need a website. Because what they need is leads and appointments. And to get leads and appointments, they need funnels. Maybe if you're doing web development, instead of being a web development agency, you position yourself as a funnel building agency. And you say, hey, I can build you a website that will passively generate 10 leads a month. The website standing alone doesn't have value. There has to be traffic attached to it, right? And you can't sell something if it doesn't have standalone value. It takes me too long to complete some tasks. I'm working on the right things, not a website, but I was working on the ad when it comes to creative and copy. So this is a problem of planning, I guess. Could you say some things to stay more productive and plan less in the day? Yeah, so just plan tomorrow today, mate. When you finish your work day, plan what you're going to do tomorrow. Go on YouTube and search in Charlie Morgan Daily Planner and use that to plan your days. Is service delivery improvement just repetitions or something else? It's just who can copy the best. And then make slight tweaks with their knowledge of the niche and human nature. How do you get good at sales? Should I tell my story and selling myself? Is it good? No, never ever tell someone your story on a sales call. Never try and sell yourself. You're selling a product, not yourself. You're not a prostitute. You're a salesperson. So sell the product, not yourself. To get better at sales, you just do volume, more calls. And also cold calling. Cold calling will turn you into a demon. If you've spent your first 6 months doing cold calls, You'll have developed a market understanding. You'll have more verbal dexterity and bravery to handle objections. But if you've hid behind the keyboard and sent cold emails, you won't have that. Hey, Charlie, I want to start an SMMA in the online coaches and agency niche, but I don't know what to offer and how to deliver because there's so much competition. What would you recommend me to deliver? Organic outreach, my friend. When your method of client acquisition becomes your product, you have a beautiful flywheel. This is why EasyGrow does so well. The methods we use to acquire clients are the methods we teach to get clients, our clients. So we're on the front lines, which means when we find a new development in one of our systems, we can tell about our clients about it. So I would just do organic. Find that flywheel between service delivery and acquisition if you can. What are some good examples of guarantees for web design services? You can't really guarantee anything because there's nothing tangible to guarantee. Like I said earlier, web development, web design doesn't really solve the problem of anything. It makes things look nice, and it might make the person's products and services easier to understand and give the business a bit more reputation, but without traffic, it's standalone silo useless, in my opinion. We went like whole year without a website for Imperium. I'm currently stuck in my service delivery. I offer lead gen services, pay per meeting, mainly emails and channel. Any tips on this? Do I increase the volume? What's your appointment booking rate for your clients or for your cold emails? Do you have a spreadsheet like that logs everything?
Yeah, it's all in the software that I use.
Well, that's the first problem. You're using a software to send cold emails, so your deliverability is probably... Dude, create a bunch of Google Workspace accounts and send them manually. Get a virtual assistant to do it. Your deliverability will be way better. That's where I would start.
I've got like 30 inboxes per client that I've set up through Google Workspace. I use the software to kind of warm up and that kind of thing.
And
so
in this software, what's the average appointment booking rate you're getting?
So let's say from one of my clients, I booked, it was like 10 meetings and I sent 10,000 leads, 10,000 emails.
So here's the thing is you don't know what the problem is because it might be deliverability. Are you sending looms or just basic cold emails?
No, just cold emails.
Yeah, we don't know if it's deliverability. We don't know if people are opening the emails. We don't know if it's like the copy. We don't know we don't know what's happening. So you need data, man. You need to know. But I would start with the deliverability thing. What I would do, this is the best strategy, by the way. If your deliverability is fine, then rewrite the cold email, but have the complete opposite of what you've already got. I know that sounds weird and counterintuitive, but what you're doing right now is not working at all. You've got a 0.1% appointment booking rate on such high volume. So what you want to do, if you want to find what works, we can look at what doesn't and invert it. It's honestly the best strategy for finding what works. Is if you find something that really, really sucks, like you found, for example, not in trying to insult you, but if you found something that doesn't work, just switch it around. Do the complete opposite and you'll probably find success or closer to it. Make it as different as possible, as much variation as humanly possible. You want to still maintain good cold email practices, but if you were using good cold email practices, you wouldn't have this problem. So maybe you need to rethink your strategies and what you're doing. Your best advice for implementing basic systems to scale without overkilling with automation. Automation is not systemization, first of all. Automation is repeating processes inside of a system without the input of a human. Systemization is being able to directly correlate a relationship between input and output through process. What that basically means is that a system doesn't mean you automate something, it means you make it predictable. So if you want to implement basic systems without overkilling with automation, well, first of all, how do we define overkill? Because maybe the automation is necessary, but wherever you can, just try to make it simple. When I'm building a system, the easiest and most straightforward thing to do is try to remove as much as possible. First rule of building a system is elimination before everything else. How can I make this thing as simple and streamlined and as easy as possible to understand? I would start there. How do I position myself when cold DMing? I would personally start with permission. Ask for permission to pitch. The best way to do it right now. What time do you wake up? 7:30 a.m. Mindset. I have a delivery job. It's flexible, but I can get a job that pays more, but less flexible. And I will probably focus less on the agency. Should I save the money or... Well, this depends, man. Like if you need the money, then you take the job that pays more because as an entrepreneur, your time is more valuable than money, right? So I would suggest keeping the flexibility. When writing out cold email and trying to stand out, is there a line not to cross and trying to be professional as creative as possible? Honestly, man, I would just be as out there as you can and you'll receive the feedback pretty quickly as to whether or not it's effective. Having a bit of an issue finding a good amount of leads to reach out to. I'm targeting medical clinics like hair plants. I've tried a bunch of different softwares. They all seem to be giving... I'm not sure there's any... You've got a very minimal niche, man. I would first of all start by seeing if there actually are that many businesses. And if you can't find a software that does it, then I would just figure out how to do it yourself, like personally. Off the back of that, you can simply give a virtual assistant the job. Just build a standard operating procedure for it. But it sounds like you haven't got a huge market, which might be a problem. Question more about the operation. How do you structure your business in the Google Workspace? Perhaps some recommendations besides SOPs. I mean, I have my Google Drive. I mean, I can pretty much show you. This is our Google Workspace. We have the archive folder to keep it clean. So if there's a project we no longer need or work on, it goes in there. And then everything else that we do is basically in here. So for example, I can put Dubai in archive now, but that's how we structure it. And obviously every folder is like has its own intricacies and stuff, but I won't go too far into that. Santiago, I have been going through a rough week and I feel like I'm touching the floor. How can I get back to my ceiling? If you get to the bottom enough, you should find the emotion to pull yourself back up. Go and rewatch Trial by Fire. Where did you learn to run ads? Is it just trial and error? Most of my media buying experience actually came from looking at how, like natural selection and stuff and how like nature sorts through organisms. But also like the easiest way to learn them is just like I said earlier, just to sort of copy what other people are doing that works. And then you can sort of reverse engineer the principles from there. Milos, I've been doing my agency for 2 months. I'm doing well alone. However, my friend contacted me and told me he wants to do the agency with me. Should I hire him? No, do not do that. Like, here's the thing about hiring people and building a company. It's intent. If someone comes along and says, hey, can I work for you? If that doesn't fit into a pre-existing strategy, it's a mistake. Your business should be intentional. You should have a strategy and a plan, and you need to stick to it and say no to everything that isn't that. Advantages and disadvantages of starting a personal brand and creating an info product program versus starting an agency. I mean, I'm more inclined to say the coaching program, but generally you need to know what you're doing to start a coaching program. And the easiest way to learn how to do it is through a done for you service. There's no real disadvantage to starting a personal brand. It's all upside. When the prospect explains how bad their life is and they say their life is fine and that they don't mind it, how to make them feel pain. Well, here's the thing, man. You can't make them feel pain. Your job is to amplify pain that already exists. If there's nothing that exists, they don't have a reason to buy from you. They're not a fit. Therefore, you shouldn't sign them. Straightforward. Can any niche be too saturated? Simple answer, no. Niches do not saturate, offers and stimuli do. Minimum ad spend for gyms, $750 a month, $500 at a push. Got 3 clients. When do you think it'd be a good idea to stop working at my part-time job and drop out? I would do it now. What is a cheap service we can use to scrape prospect emails and send cold emails? D7 Lead Finder. I know how to deliver great results for clients. My offer is refund fee and ads refund, but I don't have testimonials. Never refund the ad spend, by the way, because you can't refund money that you haven't received unless they're paying you the ad spend, in which case they shouldn't be. How would you offer sales training? How would you guarantee the person you're working with is actually going to do it? You give them a script, and then inside of your contract, you say, you need to record your calls and follow the script in order to qualify for the refund. I have no clients. I want to start an e-com with fitness and self-improvement products, but I don't know if it's the right niche. I want to make money and deliver killer results. Dude, you can make 10 grand a month in fitness. You can make 10 grand a month in self-improvement. The only thing that's stopping you back from doing that is actually picking one. So just pick one and get on with it. Kai says, do you recommend asking if a client needs your service before trying to pitch? No, because people don't know what they need. I would just reach out and say, hey, I've got a product. I'm a salesperson. I want to be honest with you. Can I get permission to pitch? Udesh is a total beginner. Should I offer leads or booked appointments? I would go straight for the booked appointments thing because it forces you to figure it out. Do you recommend keeping the job, working with someone else and having an agency on the side? If you need the money, yes. If you don't, no. I work with gyms. What offers do you recommend? Well, just guarantee members, man. Pay on results members, pay per show, that sort of thing. Should I continue cold calling in the roofing niche if the owner doesn't pick up 90% of the time? Yes, I would keep going for another month, see if it works. Didn't Alex Hormozy advocate doing things for free in the beginning? Yes, he does, but I still wouldn't recommend doing it. But then again, both will work. For me, I just prefer pay per result. Doing an average $8 grand a month before taxes is a freelance copy for Italian info businesses. I work 12 hours a day. How do I scale up in such a small market without having to sell my services to scammy clients, given my skill around the Italian language? I'm fluent in English, but not copy level fluent. Well, dude, you've got a market problem here, mate. You can't scale into a market that doesn't allow scale. So you have to work on your English to become fluent and start working in the US. Would you recommend pay per closed model instead of standard retainer? No, I would just do pay per appointment. I'm still a student and I don't have any time to do outreach. So I hired someone to do it and he would get 20% commission. Dude, if you don't have time to do outreach, you don't deserve a business. You can't hire someone to run your company for you. If you haven't got time to do outreach, don't start the business. I want to start an agency and jump into the coaching agency space. I want to guarantee them clients and increase followers, but I don't know how to deliver. And also, I think there'll be good competition. What would you recommend for me? First of all, I wouldn't worry about the competition. There's going to be anywhere you go, there'll be competition. As for figuring out how to get them clients, it's looking what's working. I don't know how to increase followers. Like I just make YouTube videos, all right? Like niche specific service delivery questions, I'm not going to be of much use. Do real estate agents have enough money to pay for marketing? They certainly do. Should I learn the skills on how to run an agency before I run it? No, just start the agency and you'll be off. Asking that question is like asking me if you should learn how to drive before you get in a car. How are you going to learn to drive? Like you're going to watch like some people drive and then understand clutch control and gear shifting and indicating and mirror checking and stuff. Like you learn the skill through the skill. What's the best medium to outreach home and renovation? Instagram or cold calls or both? I would just try both and see what works best. Is therapist a good niche? No, because they sell their time. If you take on a therapist or a personal trainer or anyone that sells business by the hour, if you do a good enough job for 2 months, you won't be able to retain them because they'll fire you because they've got too many clients. What do you think of looping and objection handling? It's a good idea. What are the 3 most important advice is that it's needed to reach 10K. Call, close, deliver, mate. Simple. Just do as many outreaches as you can, have as much conviction as you can on the phone, and spend as much time as you can perfecting service delivery. What are your thoughts on fronting objections on a cold call? I would just save them for the warm call. I sent 10K DMs. I haven't got any clients yet. My offer is pay when you close, man. I started doing 600 DMs a day and I still haven't got any clients. And last week I started booking calls. My account got restricted. I cannot follow up with book prospecting suggestion. You guys have to understand this. If you are doing outreach and you send 1,000 cold DMs and you get no replies, stop sending that DM. You've received feedback from the market that it does not work. If you're waking up and you're sending DMs and you've been doing it for a month, and you're doing the same thing but getting no results, change, feedback, iterate, improve, data. Stop doing the same things. You're going to get the same result. What advice would you have to get past the gatekeeper? Sound like a pissed off CEO. That's it. Simple as that. I just see that building an organic system for coaches isn't fast or predictable to persuade the clients. What do you recommend me to do to articulate this? This is a belief, man. You'll be absolutely fine. How do bank transfer to send money from the US to my country? Stripe and PayPal aren't available. You can look at Wise. How do we balance a relationship with business? How do you manage it in the beginning phase? You don't. You just go as hard as you can. Guys, when you're trying to build a business in the early days, stop thinking about how you're going to manage a relationship with it. Just work. All of these mindset questions you guys have are solved. You just sit down for 12 hours a day and do what you know needs to be done. You know, it's not like, oh, how shall I manage my work-life balance? What life? You're starting a business, man. You're not supposed to have a life. How do I manage my mental health? How do I manage my relationship? All of these things, like, you're going to have to sacrifice them and tell your spouse or your partner, look, babe, I've only got like a couple of hours a day. I love you, but I'm doing this for us and I need you to understand. When I was with my girlfriend, when I was building Easy Grow and I was like just locked in the room for like 16 hours a day, what we would do is we'd eat dinner together and then we'd watch an episode of like a TV series in the evening. And she was fine with that. That's all we did. When starting out, do you recommend doing 12 to 14 hour work days, 6 to 7 days a week? You don't schedule it, man. You just work as much as you can. Should I start a YouTube channel from day one? Wait till you get a couple of clients and then start one. YouTube only really makes sense when you actually have anything of value to talk about, right? If you haven't got clients yet, you haven't got any understanding of the niche, you're not going to make any good videos. What would you do to make your service delivery as bulletproof as possible? Spend some time every day like researching what's working for everyone in the market and then compile and aggregate all of that. I'm getting started. Can I join Easy Grow with no client? You can, but only if you qualify financially. You can still book a call. How to send leads information to my client without using Go High Level but spreadsheet? Zapier. What's your favorite quote that you have embedded in your mind and it keeps you moving? Persist and resist, which is an Epictetus quote, which just summarizes stoicism in 3 words. It's a beautiful quote. I cold call solo business every day, offering 30 guaranteed appointments with your money back. A lot of these businesses say they've worked with an agency in the past that also have a guarantee. We'll never follow through with it. So they're afraid of trusting me, even though I have a guarantee. What should I do? Just reduce the risk for them, man. If you haven't got any social proof to back yourself up with, and if you haven't got a huge amount of call volume and experience to sit back on, you have to just reduce the risk. Hey, how about we scrap the guarantee and just work on a pay per appointment basis? Do you hire appointment setters when running Facebook ads for your clients to convert those leads into appointments? Yes, but not until you've done it yourself a while and you understand it and can train it and manage it. What things do you value and why do you value those things? I mean, growth, love, pain, integrity, honesty. How is it with the economy in the UK since I'm planning to go after home improvement? It's just fine, man. You'll be just fine. Curious about the Skype number I should choose. From my understanding, 033 in general. I would go with a 020 number because that is a London number and that is probably the most prevalent number that you can find in the UK. How does the UK look at working with foreigners? You'll be absolutely fine, my friend. If your English is good, you speak clearly, you'll be just fine. Simon says, hey, Charlie, if doing YouTube videos, how do I create content that doesn't show too many details about my service? There is still curiosity. Focus on first principles and focus on the critical understandings of how to do it, as opposed to like the information. Like, this is what I do with my videos. You guys have all subscribed and watched my videos for years, I hope, at least, maybe. And I haven't once, I've dropped the best email copy and the best sales script like once. Focus on ideas as opposed to shiny objects. My friends and people that I know don't support my SMMA business. They say I'm destined to fail. I just use it against them, man. I had the same thing. Everyone has the same thing, man. Use it as motivation. When you're knee deep in a cold calling session and you want to give up, just remember that they want you to fail. What service delivery method for roofers is best in the UK? I would say Google Ads, but I'm not entirely sure. Can I scale to 10K with coaches in France? Yes. Should I stick to the med spa niche? Yes. Running an agency can get very messy very quickly. How did you manage to stay organized? You have to let go of the organization. What happens is 0 to 10K a month, you make a huge mess and then you get to 10K and you clean it up. The main thing to keep tidy is your invoices. Mylan says, in one of your videos about Facebook ad strategy, you mentioned a strategy where you had 5 ad sets and 4 ads in each. He mentioned the budget is $1,000, which is $200 per ad set. This leads to a $7 a day per ad to test those 4 creatives. Is that enough? Yes, it is enough in the local audience, at least I found. Best persuasion tips and books, influenced by Robert Cialdini. I run a copywriting agency now with 2 clients each month, $800. Thinking about doing lead generation with copywriting. Do you think it's possible? Keep signing the copywriting clients, man. The ones that you've already got, work on that. You've got proof of concept. concept. Don't link lead generation. If you're making $1,600 a month with the agency, you can make $16,000 a month. It's a fractal scale. Add volume, you'll see the same result at scale. You mentioned you play video games after long days of work with your friends as a way to de-stress. Do you think whilst in dark mode, it is okay to use social media for 3 minutes a day after work or cut it out fully? I would cut it out fully. If you're like scrolling through TikTok, even 3 minutes is too much, man. Is a 15% commission better than a month retainer for 1.5K USD? I wouldn't do either. I'll just do pay per appointment. Would you recommend selling a service that can be fulfilled through software, but it's low ticket? No, I personally wouldn't suggest it. It's not enough leverage. Is it better to test ads in separate ad sets and control spending more? Or is it fine to have 3 to 5 within one ad set, same copy and different creatives? And what's the minimum budget you would suggest for one ad set? I always just test them in separate ad sets, man. Did becoming an entrepreneur impact your social skills? Did you feel the odd one out in social settings? Not so much, man. It's weird. Like if I do like the dark mode thing and like I'd lock myself in a room for like 6 months, like with Easy Grow, like trying to socialize after building Easy Grow, like was so difficult. I was like borderline like autistic for like a month because like I didn't talk to anyone for like 9 months. But yeah, well, I hope you guys all have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you so much for coming through. And yeah, I love you all. Guys, have a wonderful day. Get back to work. See you later.
Thanks. Get motivated, man.
Love you, Charlie.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
All hail Charlie. All hail Charlie.
Top key, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Mwah.